Hi-Fi. Hi, this is Kirby from Audio Etc., and we do have some of the best home theater high-fidelity gear on the planet. Not only do we have your favorite brands like Clip speakers and SVS subwoofers, but audiophile greats from Bowers & Wilkins, Kef, NAD, Marantz, Cambridge, Mark Levinson, and plenty of vinyl and tube gear, plus exotics you only see in the magazines. Stop by today and visit Audio Etc.'s crazy cool showroom and see and audition the best audio and video it has to offer. While you're in, check out our huge selection of pre-owned vintage gear. A great way to afford great gear otherwise out of reach, or revisit old classics. Audio Etc. Sound advice you can trust. Audio Etc. 551 Congress Park Drive at the corner of Paragon in Centerville, or call 434-9770.
Audio Etc.'s crazy cool showroom.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It's the Kinner and Kev Show right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We got a jam-packed show coming up for you here this afternoon. We'll be joined by Bengals beat writer Jay Morrison coming up here just around the corner. Here in about 15 minutes or so, we'll catch up with him. The Bengals got a big one this coming up weekend, but they're going to be a little shorthanded. And no, I'm not talking about because they're without Joe Burrow. This is a new Bengals team that has found a new identity, found new ways to win, but a new injury that is going to keep one of their star players out potentially for the matchup this weekend. We'll talk about what that means for the Cincinnati Bengals with Jay Morrison coming up here around the corner. Later on in the show, voice of the Raiders, Wright State Hall of Famer Jim Brown, who has been absent from pretty much all the games except the Colorado State game this year for Wright State. He's going to come on with us and talk a little Wright State basketball. They got a big win over Miami of Ohio last night, and a conference play coming up around the corner for all of our local college basketball teams, of course. So we'll talk about that with Jim Brown, and he'll give a little bit of a health update. He's been absent from calling the games this season alongside Chris Collins, so he'll give us a little bit of an update on that coming up. But and we only have a little bit here to open up the show, but I definitely want to dive right into, of course, to all the chatter with this National Signing Day news. And I'm here to tell you, how many of you knew that today was National Signing Day? Now, there's the diehards out there. Of course, some of you, most of you knew that. But how many of you out there actually care about National Signing Day? This used to be a huge day on WING. This used to be a huge day on many sports radio stations out there, because this was like a huge celebration. Like, because before the portal, okay, and players used to be able to not opt out, but players used to be able to transfer, but then you would transfer, you'd have to sit out a year, and so you didn't see it as often. I mean, it was a problem, but it wasn't like what it is right now, where it's basically free agency every single season or off season now. But, you know, at least when you had a recruiting class, you were married to that class for quite a few years. You had quite a few years to develop that class, and it was very important to stack classes. I'm still trying to figure out why the hell I should care about National Signing Day when so many players enter the portal. Half these kids, are playing games the entire time. Like, I know everyone's super happy about Ohio State right now because they were able to land the number one target for the 2024 class, of course, with Jeremiah Smith. But Jeremiah Smith, a lot of people thought he wasn't actually going to come to Ohio State. And my big problem with all of this is the games that they play. Because, and I get it, they're kids, let them have fun. And I'm 33 years old, 34 now, I guess. And I'm starting to sound like the get off my lawn guy. But I'm here to tell you, name any other facet of life where I'm allowed to go and just play games when I'm trying to apply for a job. And imagine, like, I'm here with Alpha Media, 1410 Wing AM. Imagine if I go to my boss and say, I don't know if I'm going to show up to work tomorrow. I might go host a show on iHeart. I might go host a show over, with Cox Media or Apollo or whatever the hell they are now. I might go over here and host my show. I don't know if I'm going to come to work tomorrow. I don't know. I might sign my contract for you. I might not. I might go sign this contract. Oh, I'm going to come to work tomorrow wearing my iHeart shirt, even though we're Alpha Media. Man, you just don't know. Do you think people find that cute? Would you guys? No. Nobody would. Nobody would find it cute if you did it at your job. So why are we making it a cute thing when they do it here? Oh, stop. Let them have fun. I'm not. But is it fun? Ryan Day, and this isn't a poor Ryan Day thing. This is just college coach. This is college athletics becoming a joke right now, because it's just the wild, wild west out there. And I'm not asking you to feel sorry for the millionaire head coaches because they're paid to deal with this type of mess. But at the same time, just because they're paid a lot of money doesn't mean that this system that's always been broken is not more broken now. Oh, Kenner, you're against athletes going out and making money and all this stuff. No, I'm not. I'm for some kind of, regulations a little bit. I am some kind, they need to have some kind of format on this. I mean, this is just insane. All we talk about is the transfer portal. Thousands and thousands of players commit to schools and give up after a year of not getting what they want, and then they go on to the next school. And then they go on to the next one. And then they go on to the next one. So why should I care that Ohio State has just dominated today? How many of these players are actually going to actually play? Jeremiah Smith, a fantastic get for Ohio State. They at one point didn't think that they were actually going to get him. But the big question I have for you is, do you care about National Signing Day? Why should you care? Until I see Jeremiah Smith actually look like Marvin Harrison Jr., okay, great. You got to at least get these talented players here first. That's the first step. So at least that's the first step. But what's the likelihood of Jeremiah Smith and Edric Houston, the star defensive lineman that they also thought that they weren't going to get, and Aaron Noland and Aaron Scott, shout out to Aaron Scott, who made his announcement months and months ago, of course. But he also kind of did the games and stuff a little bit, and you're not supposed to talk bad about the local kids. Not really talking bad about the kids. They do what everyone else is doing and all that stuff. They're not technically doing anything wrong, but I find this odd. This is the only line of work, and because these guys are getting paid now, it is work. It's the only line of work where you're allowed to be disrespectful to everyone that's trying to employ you. That doesn't work in real life. That doesn't work. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a loser sports radio host like me, whether you are a teacher, whether, whatever you are, you're not allowed to go play games and act disrespectful and lead jobs on. Yeah, I'm going to show up. I'm going to sign my contract tomorrow. Oh, gotcha. I'm going to iHeart. Like, that is just so cheesy and so tacky and just so weird. So why do we react? Oh man, I'm so glad he picked us. I'm not glad that he picked us because of this reason right here. It shows that they're not serious about where they're going. And I don't expect them to be. They're 18-year-old boys. Okay. They're boys. Like, that's what this comes down to. Like, they're not adults, and I get that. And they're not acting like adults in this situation. But this whole thing's a mess. Good for Ohio State for landing one heck of a recruiting class. But as I've stated in the past, at the end of the day, this is one of those situations where I'm like, why do I care about National Signing Day? I kind of don't. I really don't care about that. I'm supposed to, and that's why I'm talking about it to open up the show. But at the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of National Signing Day, especially when the transfer portal, to me, I find the lack of activity in the transfer portal more concerning for Ohio State than I am happy about the activity on the recruiting trail. You need a balance of both in today's college football. You just do. But how many times have we seen Ohio State dominate on National Signing Day? Every year we brag about Ohio State's recruiting classes. Every year they have one of the top recruiting classes in the year. What the heck do they have to show for? They haven't won a national title since 2014. You know how many dominant recruiting classes Ohio State has had since then? Pretty much every season we're talking about a top 5 recruiting class. What do you have to show for? They haven't won a Big Ten championship in 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't beat Michigan in 3 years. Like, look, the first step is getting the talented players in there, and Ohio State's doing that. But that leads to the next part of the conversation. What are you doing when that talent gets there? When that talent steps foot on your campus, what are you doing when they get there? Now, you're developing certain skill sets. You're developing certain skill positions. You're wide receiver, right? Every wide receiver that Brian Hartline and Ryan Day touch, they're going to the NFL. They're stars. We're watching it with Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's one reason why Jeremiah Smith committed to Ohio State today. That's fantastic. That is super. But if you look at all the major commitments from these players, it's quarterback, it's wide receivers. There's one defensive lineman, but the reason it's not just one, it's the defensive lineman. Edric Houston is a big-time get for Ohio State, but we're talking about quantity versus quality. They have a quality defensive lineman in Edric Houston, but where's the quantity? Where's the others? There's multiple wide receivers. There's multiple quarterbacks coming in. There's the finesse players, but the finesse players have been enough to win Ohio State football games, but it's been the lack of the Edric Houstons of the world that have lost them football games. Once again, Ohio State is recruiting to who they've been during the Ryan Day era, which is finesse. They're fun to watch. I love their wide receivers. Great quarterback play, minus the Kyle McCord season. I mean, Ryan Day has killed it every year. But at the same time, why should I care about National Signing Day? I really don't care about National Signing Day. I should. It's my job to. I get it. And I promise you we'll spend a little bit more time on this coming up here around the corner. I'm Justin Kinner with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. National Signing Day, Ohio State, they had a huge day. Another elite class. Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State will end the day with the most composite 5 stars of any team out there. The number 1 recruit in the 2024 class, of course, Jeremiah Smith. They have Mylan Graham, the number 23 recruit wide receiver, of course. Edric Houston, that was the big get right there because they're soft out on the recruiting trail when it comes to D linemen and really offensive linemen on top of that. Aaron Scott, love Aaron Scott, Springfield kid. I'm excited that he's a Buckeye, of course. And Aaron Noland, one of the best quarterbacks out there. That's a huge deal. Getting Jeremiah Smith and Aaron Noland coming in together is a very big deal. But all I see is another situation where unless they start stacking these classes with more defensive linemen and the big guys up front, now we're talking about a situation where it's a C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, where you have all this just insane amount of skill position talent, but nothing to show for it. These are great days to be a Buckeye, but it's also a constant reminder of we have all this talent, and what do we have to show for it? But we'll see. I'm not trying to be too negative. I'm just saying I hate National Signing Day because to me it doesn't mean that. If you're getting the best players in the world and it's not leading to championships, what are we doing? What are we doing? Alabama, they get the best players in the world. They win championships. Georgia, they're getting the best players in the world. They're winning championships. And we're over here upset because we can't win the game. I don't know. We'll get back into this coming up. I want to talk a little Cincinnati Bengals football. Jay Morrison, he's going to hang out with us next, the Bengals beat writer. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Frickin' chicken chunks, frickin' chicken chunks, frickin' chicken chunks, frickin' chicken chunks.
When there's no time to make food for your holiday party, carry out 4 pounds of frickin' chicken chunks for only $34.99. Give the gift that always fits a $25 Frickers gift card and get 5 frickin' bonus bucks free. Let them get what they really want.
At Harley-Davidson of Xenia, the atmosphere is positively electric as we look to the future. Our name may have changed, but Harley-Davidson of Xenia has been locally owned since 1984. Under our new management, the staff and store are buzzing to get you set up for the open road. Whether you're shopping for merchandise, a new bike, or just need some maintenance on your current ride, Harley-Davidson of Xenia is here for you. Visit us online to learn more and to place a reservation on your new bike. hdofxenia.com.
'Tis the season. If you need a COVID shot, but you're underinsured or uninsured, contact Five Rivers Health Centers. To schedule your vaccination, call 937-281-6800 or log on to fiverivershealthcenters.org.
Folks, you show it, we'll feed it. Quality show feeds from Lowe's, Umbarger, Hunter at a great price, along with Sullivan Show products right here at Homestead Feed and Supply, 1833 North Dayton Lakeview Road. Tell them the Colonel sent you.
$5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers with excellent work history. If that's you, apply now. Cordell Transportation offers home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight, and brand new equipment, plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, and company 401k with company match. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Don't miss out on new deals every day at Lowe's. Find can't-miss savings across the store for a limited time. New deals every day, only at Lowe's.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We'll get back into our National Signing Day conversation. I know I'm irritating some of you because I'm being negative. I'm not being negative. I'm just trying to be realistic here. Like, I don't know why we lose our minds over these National Signing Day signings, mainly because the fact that half these players just constantly jump to the portal the first time a coach doesn't tell them how cool their $1 million shoes look that day. Excuse me if I'm not like jumping for joy at this. Plus, how many dominant recruiting classes has Ohio State had over the years, and we're still talking about them not being able to beat that team up north. I love Air Noland. I love the quarterback. I love that they got the number one receiver, of course, today. But at the same time, like that's who Ohio State's been during Ryan Day's era. It's been the great quarterback play. It's been great wide receiver play. But it's the guys that they're not getting that lead to the constant question marks at the tail end of the season. But again, the first step is getting the good players in the building. You can't get to the next step without that. So not being too negative. I'm just trying to point out some realistic talking points. And we'll get back to that in a minute. All right. Cincinnati Bengals NFL action coming up this weekend. It's Bengals Steelers week, of course, and another Saturday game for your Cincinnati Bengals. 2-point favorites. They're on the road at Pittsburgh, but of course, injury is the name of the game. Of course, I'm not talking about the injury to Joe Burrow. But what about the big one, of course, to Jamar Chase? And we know that he's been the catalyst to kind of help the team throughout the season through the ups and the downs with the beaten up roster, of course. And joining us now to help dive more into that, of course, Bengals beat writer for Pro Football Network. We have Jay Morrison. Jay, I know we were having some connection issues earlier. Are you coming through clear now?
Oh, yeah, you sound great now.
There we go. We just needed to be on the air. That's what it was. So
yeah.
There you go. Hey, I appreciate your time. And what a wild season this has been. If you would have told me coming into the season that the Bengals would have gone more than half the season without more than a 75% Joe Burrow, and the Browns would be on their fourth different quarterback, and the Steelers would be in last place, and that Lamar Jackson would remain healthy for an entire season for once. What a wild season in the AFC North.
Yeah, I don't know which of those would have been the most unlikely of those four that you mentioned. It's been a wild season, and it's going to be a fun finish. I'm really looking forward to this. I like the way this sets up. I think this week 18 Battle of Ohio game could be one of the most interesting, most fun Cleveland-Cincinnati games in a long time. But we still got 2 weeks to go before we get there. Big one in Pittsburgh on Saturday.
I remember when the schedule came out, I saw Bengals-Browns the last week of the regular season, and I'm like, man, there hasn't been too many last week of the regular season that the Bengals have had to have their guys out there. Well, you know what? They technically won't have all their guys out there, but they're going to have their main guys that have carried them through this recent struggle. It's been fun watching the teams throughout the league. Not really fun watching them lose their star players, but it's been fun watching the coaching and the players rise up to fill the void of their stars being out. Of course, Joe Burrow been out for quite some time now. It's very rare to see a backup come in and not just play well, but play as well as the starter. I mean, what we're seeing out of Jake Browning right now, have you seen anything like that for a backup coming in to replace a superstar quarterback like a Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I don't know that I have. I mean, you look at the Eagles a few years back with Foles coming in for Wentz and taking him to the Super Bowl, but I can't remember him lighting it up. And really, I mean, you think about it, we've been writing all these stats. I mean, what Browning's doing is historic. Mm-hmm. The numbers he's putting up in the first 4 starts of a career just been remarkable. And, I think a lot of credit goes to Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan for kind of tailoring what they want to do to what Jake does well. They didn't rip up the offense, but they just kind of leaned into some different areas, things that they had in the playbook, the screens, the running game, and just using that a little bit more. And it has been, I thought they had a chance to be competitive and win some games. I know there was a lot of doom and gloom when Burrow went down, and I was like, I thought I liked what I've seen from Browning. A lot of people haven't, because in the preseason he didn't look good, and that's because he was playing with second string and sometimes third string guys, because sometimes Trevor Siemian was getting to play with the second string guys. But what we saw in training camp, you thought there was a chance he could play well, not this well. Nobody thought it was going to be like this, but it has been remarkable. And now the one team that's beaten them in that very first start it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. He gets a second shot at him on Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to say it was the doom and gloom because of the fact that Joe Burrow went down, yes, but then the very first start for Browning was against Pittsburgh, and it did not look good at all. In fact, it felt like, man, we have a lot of football left to be played. It's going to be a long rest of the season for Bengals fans who had Super Bowl expectations coming in. With them playing well and back in the playoff picture, at this point, Jay, I mean, how good is this team? Realistically, where do they kind of fit in the Super Bowl picture? I know it's not the Joe Burrow Bengals, but are they still good enough to be in that conversation, do you think?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, offensively, for sure, they have not missed a beat. In some regards, they're playing better than they were with Joe Burrow. the big key here is the defense. It's been, not great, not up to Lou Anarumo standards all year, but you kind of see it turning, and the explosives are still there, and it's driving him crazy. But the big moments, the turnovers, the third and fourth down stop in overtime against the Vikings last Saturday, it's a huge loss losing DJ Reader. I lost him on the second play Saturday against Minnesota, but you're really starting to see this defense kind of gel together. And a big reason for that is they've been leaning on so many young guys with DJ Turner and, Cam Taylor-Britt's in year 2 and he's hurt right now. He'll be back next week. But DJ Ivey was playing well. He got hurt last week. They've just had so many new pieces and young guys, and they're all starting to come together. Jordan Battle, the rookie third-round pick, has played great at safety. And you deal with some of those growing pains early, and then they start to kind of mature and start and quit playing like rookies. And I think that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question about, losing Jesse Bates this past offseason, losing Bell this past offseason. Those were the two big losses, of course. I thought that would impact this team this season, but I didn't think it would impact it to where we're talking about them being a bottom 5 defense in the league. And as much as I get labeled a Bengals hater, I've said multiple times that I know statistically they're ranked at the very, very bottom with some of the worst defenses in the league, but they don't look that way when you watch them play, of course. But you touch on a lot of great points there. It's a lot of rookies and young players starting to kind of come to a little bit as the season's progressed.
Yeah, and there's just something to be said, and Lou says this all the time. It's not yards, it's points. And when you're measuring a team and their defensive ranking, it's based on yards. This team just has this weird knack of the opponent gets in the red zone and they turn into a different kind of defense. And maybe it's because what I said earlier, they give up a lot of explosives. Well, you can't give up explosives in the red zone. It's a much tighter area. They're just so much better down there. The opponents have had 10 red zone trips where they have not scored at all. That's the most in the league. And then even when they do, their touchdown percentage down there is really good. The number of times they get turnovers, whether it's in the red zone or just on the edge of the red zone, they've just got a knack for kind of bowing up when they need it most. And I think that's what's kept them in it. If they weren't so good in the red zone, we could be talking about a historically bad defense based on what they've done in the middle of the field.
I was going to say between the 20s is where teams have kind of beat up on them a little bit, but they have come up very clutch, especially in the red zone, as you talked about. I'm looking at the playoff standings now, and it's just a sea of 9 and 8 win teams. I mean, right now you look at the Raiders, who are sitting in the 12th spot. They have 6 wins, but the gap between them and the Bengals mathematically is only 2 games, and there's only a couple weeks left, but a lot can still unfold. I know you covering this team. Are you ready for tiebreaker season? I'm sure you're going to be getting a ton of those questions. You have all your tiebreakers that you're sorting through and keeping an eye on, I'm sure.
I write like 2 or 3 stories a week on tiebreakers and what the Bengals need to reboot for. They do very well. People love reading about them. I've kind of become an expert in that. Going back to my college days when you didn't have playoff machines on ESPN, I used to do it by hand. So yes, I am very well versed in the tiebreakers. And what I will say to Bengals fans is do not be concerned about that conference record. Yes, it's not very good at 3-6, but if they win out, they're going to be at 500 in the conference, and that's where a lot of those teams are going to fall. They've got the key thing. They've got the head-to-head with Jacksonville. They've got the head-to-head with Indy. They've got the head-to-head with Buffalo. That's going to be huge. The thing they need to worry about is you don't want Denver in the mix because the Bengals didn't play Denver. And in order for head-to-head to come into play when there's multiple teams tied, one team has to have beaten all the others. So if you have a situation like that where Denver and Cincinnati didn't play, then it skips to the conference record. And then that's when you have to worry about, if somebody's 7-5 instead of 6-6. But they're in good shape. The one thing I do think Bengal fans need to root for also is you want Houston to win the AFC South just because Houston has the head. They're the only team in the mix, really, other than the other AFC North teams, that has the head-to-head on the Bengals. So if Houston can win the South, then you're talking about the Bengals in a wild card mix with Jaguars and Colts, and they've beaten them both.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for answering that. I know you got to bounce. You got to get into the locker room. Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, covers the Cincinnati Bengals. Send us out with this quickly, Jay. How concerned should Bengals be about this injury to Jamar Chase? They've kind of gotten over the injury to Joe Burrow. Not really gotten over, but they've weathered that storm and they've revamped mentally. How concerned should they be about this injury to Jamar Chase right now?
Well, I mean, he's not going to play this week, it doesn't look like. He didn't practice again today. I don't think it's long-term. I think he's certainly going to be available for the playoffs if they get there. He should be ready for the Cleveland game. I think the Kansas City game is up in the air. But last year they went to Pittsburgh with no Jamar Chase, scored 37 points, put up 408 yards. So it's not like it can't be done.
It's quite a flex. It is quite a flex, that's for sure. Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, covers your Cincinnati Bengals. Awesome enough to give us some time. Jay, thank you. If I don't talk to you soon, have a Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Justin.
All right, good stuff. Jay Morrison, awesome enough to give us some time. Yes. So Jay sounds very, very confident. Jay's one of my favorite reporters that covers the Cincinnati Bengals. He shoots straight. Big fan of Jay's. Jay and I go way back. Actually, when he was, working here in Dayton for Dayton Daily News, he had the Wright State beat. So him and I became very close during his time there. I've been following his career ever since, and I appreciate that he was able to give us some time here today, no doubt about it. But he seems confident that this team could still weather the storm. No Joe Burrow, no Jamar Chase. What a wild season. There's so many scenarios that we've thrown out that if I would have thrown out, coming into the season, that if the Browns would be with no Deshaun Watson, no Nick Chubb, all right, that their offensive line that they're known so much for, that they would only have one starter to close out the final month of the season, right? Like that's what, a lot of key pieces on the defense missing, and yet they'd be competing for the division. If I'd have told you back in September that Lamar Jackson's going to be healthy the entire season, you would have laughed at me. All right, you would have laughed at me if I would have told you that about the Browns being in hunt for the division with all their stars out. You would have laughed at me. If I would have told you that Joe Flacco would be the quarterback of the Browns back in September, you would have laughed at me. If I would have told you that the Cincinnati Bengals would lose Joe Burrow for a good chunk of the season, you would have probably said, yeah, because he's injury prone. See what I did there? No Joe Burrow, that Jamar Chase would be out for some key playoff clinching games down the stretch, that they would be bad defensively, bad run game, and yet they're still in a position to make the playoffs. You would have laughed at me. What a wild season for the AFC North. No doubt about it. All right. We'll touch base on some of the stuff. We'll recap some of the stuff we just talked about with Jay Morrison when we come back. I want to get back into the recruiting conversation, or the signing day conversation. A lot of good stuff coming in the chat section. I appreciate that, especially on a day like today, or said that for the rest of the week. No Kev Nash. He'll be back for the new year. We were going to be off for this week, but with National Signing Day and the Bengals back in the playoff hunt and the Browns in the division hunt and college basketball really heating up, I couldn't stay away. Sorry, your punishment is me cracking the mic for you here today. But hope all of you are doing well today. We'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, I'll get to your comment section. Check out the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, by the way. You leave your comments in the chat section. We then take those comments, we pull them into the show, and we interact with you that way. We'll also take some calls. Now's the time. We're going to go to the little commercial break. I'll for those who call in, I'll put you in line, and we'll bring you on when I come back. But it's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Hot coffee, but it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or two savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price. Looking for sweet heat that's hard to beat? Head to Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken and try the Hot Honey Chicken Sandwich, here for a limited time. This all-new sandwich features our famous hand-breaded, pressure-cooked chicken breast covered in Mike's hot honey on a brioche bun. It's the chicken sandwich made sweeter and spicier. Discover the craveable flavor that can only happen when Mike's Hot Honey meets Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. Pick up an irresistible Hot Honey Chicken Sandwich today. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
We love saying it because it's true. Chevrolet of Troy has you covered for all of your auto service needs. We have the most up-to-date and state-of-the-art dealership with experienced service department that's second to none. In fact, we're the only dealership in Miami County with an on-site body shop. Our experienced professionals diagnose your vehicle quickly to get you back on the road. For a limited time, get an oil change for as low as $29.95. Chevrolet of Troy, 1375 South Market Street, and online at ChevroletofTroy.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-687-5192. That's 800-687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-5192.
That's Mike saying good morning. It's the best he can do right now. Yeah, not a cloud in the sky. What Mike could use is a fresh start. And Irish Spring Body Wash. The fresh scent of Irish Spring and those sensational Irish Spring suds are just the reset Mike needs. Now he's ready
to go to work.
It's Sunday. Irish Spring. When the spring hits you, you're ready. Pick up Irish Spring at Walmart today.
Dell's holiday event is one of their biggest sales of the year. Shop limited time deals on laptops like the stylish, innovative XPS 13, engineered to do it all on the Intel Evo platform. Plus, save big on ultra-sharp monitors and top brand accessories. It's the perfect time to upgrade any home, business, or gaming setup powered by Intel Core processors. Shop now at Dell.com/deals to take advantage of huge savings and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
A new season is here and an exciting new career is waiting. KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring second shift production associates and offers an outstanding new pay rate of $20.24 an hour. This is an excellent opportunity that offers an attractive benefit package, medical, dental, and 401k. KTH offers the advantage of being a short drive from home, just minutes away from Bellefontaine, Troy, Piqua, and Urbana. The position will fill quickly, so please apply now at kth.net. KTH is proud to be an equal opportunity employer.
Boost Infinite's new wireless technology gives you 3 networks for the price of 1 and better service at a lower price. Visit boostinfinite.com. That's boostinfinite.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We opened up immediate reaction to today's National Signing Day. It's been an emotional roller coaster for Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. I mean, they've lost some really big-name recruits, and they were on the verge of losing a couple other big-name recruits, but they've been able to kind of rally a little bit. They've been able to, officially close some of these deals, if you will. Jeremiah Smith, of course, the number 1 recruit. Of course, they were able to get the commitment from him, although they did feel like there was a good chance that he could have potentially headed to Miami. Aaron Noland, of course, we knew that one was in the bag. Of course, Aaron Scott from Springfield, that's a big deal right there. Edric Houston, the defensive lineman, that was another one that people had concerns about Ohio State being able to close as far as that's concerned, or get the full commitment from. But I guess the question I have to ask you guys is this, is, how many times like National Signing Day, like it's not what it used to be. For one, there's 2 National Signing Days, so that really watered it all down. There's the early National Signing Day period and early National Signing period, and then of course there'll be another one a couple months from now. But the point is there just needs to be one. I saw a point that was made earlier today that I think a year from today would technically be when the 12-team college football playoff starts, which is right around National Signing Day. So can you imagine? I mean, all of the big name programs who are out there in the recruiting trail, they're like, look at the stress that Ryan Day was under today to get this class closed. A year from now, he'll be preparing, hopefully, for a major college football playoff game. Actually, hopefully they win the Big Ten and they're not playing early. But you see my point. Coaches should not have to be worried about, man, hitting the free agent trail for next season, landing the recruiting landing the class, the commitments, and getting that class established for next season, all while preparing for the biggest games of the season, the college football playoff. Like, this is a disaster. This is a mess. No matter how many times college football adds these cool elements, it makes you feel like the sport is moving forward. It's a constant reminder of how out of touch and just how much of a mess and a disaster college athletics actually is, and college football more than anything else. It is so messed up to me that players feel like they have to leave their current playoff team. Their team is preparing for the playoff, the playoff that they battled all season to get to. And you have guys like Malik Murphy, I believe is his name, the quarterback from Texas, that has to tell his Texas team that he played a role in getting to the playoff. If it wasn't for his play during the absence of Quinn Ewers, Texas isn't in the playoff. So he played one of the biggest roles, if not the biggest role, in getting Texas to the college football playoff. And he has to bail on his team. And bail has a negative connotation to it, but he had to based on the calendar work of the transfer portal. It's a disaster. National Signing Day being today, I don't care about it. I really don't. I love hearing about all the great players that Ohio State is landing on their roster, but like, what else is new? How many times do we as Buckeye fans have to sit here on a day like today and feel excited about it and brag about all the great talent we have coming to Columbus? Also, we could have that same pissed off feeling in late November because they can't beat that team up north, because they can't win a national championship. Folks, we're heading into 2024. We are approaching a decade since Ohio State last won a national championship. In Ohio State, every single season has a top 5 recruiting class. You are bringing in the best of you're bringing in the best talent in the world year in and year out, and don't really have a lot to show for it. That's frustrating to me. And it should be frustrating to you. And this isn't me bashing Ryan Day. This is like, I had these same concerns about Urban Meyer back in the day, and everyone, beat up on me for that. Like, I'm happy. The first step to building a great team is to get great players. So that's the first step. The first step is getting those great players in the door. But it's like, what are you doing with them once they get there? That's my complaint. So today's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But it's not as a big deal as it used to be. Not so much just because the Ohio State hasn't been able to maximize the talent that they've had on this roster over the years. It's mainly because of the fact that National Signing Day has nothing to do with Ohio State, really. It has more to do with half the time these commits that we're drooling over won't even be Buckeyes long-term. Everyone's going to enter the transfer portal at some point or the other. It's a mess. Now, I saw in the comment section on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, I wish I would have saved it. So Philip Reed says on Facebook, like you said, National Signing Day doesn't matter anymore. I agree. They will probably transfer if a new NIL deal somewhere else happens the following year, or if they are starting as a freshman. No doubt about it. Like, some coaches feel the pressure of having to speed up the progression, whether a player's ready or not, because if they don't play this highly sought after recruit early, then he's going to leave to go elsewhere. Gone are the days of being able to stockpile quarterbacks. Like, back in the day, Ohio State, remember, the whole reason they won a national championship is because that had a roster that featured the likes of a Braxton Miller, a Cardale Jones, a JT Barrett. You would go on to get Dwayne Haskins in the mix when it's all said and done. I mean, you were stockpiling quarterbacks. Joe Burrow was even in that mix. Like, back in the day, Alabama used to stockpile quarterbacks. That's why they had Tua Tagovailoa. That's why they had Jalen Hurts. That's why they had Mac Jones. Because they were able to sit on all those guys. Mac Jones sat behind some really, really good quarterbacks at Alabama before he ultimately got his turn, and he patiently waited his turn, and he ended up having a fantastic year as his only time starting for Alabama. Gone are those days. So that's where, so what I mean by that is these big name programs used to stockpile talent at certain positions because, for one, if you transfer, you got to sit out a year, or that you just feel like, I got to tough it out, battle it out because I have no other options. Well, now these guys have options. If the transfer portal the way it's set up now, existed back in 2014, Ohio State doesn't win a national championship that year because most likely they don't have a JT Barrett. Most likely they don't have a Cardale Jones. Most likely they don't, you know what I mean? Like, and the list goes on and on. Like, those guys would all be spread out throughout college football. Now, I've always said that's a good thing for college football. As cool as it was to talk about the fact that Ohio State had those great quarterbacks in the roster at once, to me, that robbed college football of seeing those guys flourish elsewhere so that more teams are in the mix. Look at this season. The quarterback play was through the roof. There's a reason that when you look at all the teams that were in contention for the college football playoff, it's not a coincidence that when you look at the top 10 rankings, the majority of those teams had elite quarterback play. You look at Michael Penix Jr. at Washington, Quinn Ewers at Texas. Obviously, Alabama didn't have their traditional big-name quarterback that we've become accustomed to seeing since, obviously, the Tua to the Mac Jones, obviously, to, the recent quarterback success that they've had. Florida State, their great quarterback. Georgia gets great quarterback play. Ohio State, outside of Kyle McCord, great quarterback play, right? Like, Oregon, Bo Nix. Like, the bottom line is, and even Oklahoma, when they had their quarterback, they were in the mix of things, too. The bottom line is, a lot of these quarterbacks, more times than not, would be kind of buried on some roster, stockpiled, like back in 2014. That's not the case anymore. So now you become extra thin at some of these positions. You become vulnerable to a lot, to injuries and, taking a step back as far as that's concerned. So look, at the end of the day, does today matter? Yes, it does. The first step is getting the talent in the door. But big picture wise, the reason I'm not super excited about it, when we brag about all the great players Ohio State signed today with Aaron Noland and Aaron Scott, shout out to Aaron Scott, local kid, by the way, Edric Houston, Mylan Graham, Jeremiah Smith. Why am I supposed to be excited about these guys committing to Ohio State? I'll be excited when they're stars at Ohio State. I'll be excited when I actually see them on the field, not pouting and transferring somewhere else because more money was offered to them or more playing time was offered to them. So you guys enjoy this, but I'm here to tell you it's not as big a deal as what you guys like to make it out to be, because common sense tells you if you get the best players in the world, you should win. And Ohio State wins, but wins what? They haven't won the Big Ten in 3 years. They haven't been to the national championship since 2020. They haven't won a national championship since 2014. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. If Ohio State is a championship or bust program and they haven't won a title since 14, they haven't been to a title game since 20, how are we sitting here acting like this is a big deal? Every year, Ohio State has a top 5 recruiting class, and every year we end that season talking about the frustrations of why they came up short. And here's why you should be concerned about this. Now, when I say this doesn't matter, maybe I'm slightly wrong, and here's why, okay? When you look at the 2021 recruiting rankings, Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia are in those 3 programs in the top 5, or in LSU in the top 5 recruiting rankings, right, for 2021. In 2022, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M, and Ohio State. Super. 2023, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Super. So when we say things like, oh, Ohio State, they're getting the best players in the world or whatever, but, it's hard to win a national championship. There's a lot of teams that recruit well and don't always win championships. I'm here to tell you that you need to be concerned because we look at Ohio State as the Ohio State University. We accuse the success of Georgia and Alabama. We just chalked it up to SEC bias. But I'm here to tell you, you got to stop blaming SEC bias for the success of the SEC because that's just not accurate. When Georgia and Alabama get the best players in the world, they win championships. When Ohio State and Oklahoma and Texas A&M get the best players in the world, they don't win championships. That's a problem. We look down on Texas. We look down on Texas A&M, but I'm not 100% convinced that Ohio State's not in a similar boat as them. The only difference between Ohio State, Texas, and Texas A&M is that they haven't trademarked the word "the." Like, let's just be real. Because I see this coming in now. Well, just because you get top recruiting class, that doesn't guarantee you anything. Look at Texas A&M and look at others. Yes, but it does if you have an effective program. Texas A&M's not a good program. Are you saying Ohio State's Texas A&M? Oklahoma is a solid program, but they're not an elite program. Are you saying that Ohio State is Oklahoma? Because they're not, or they shouldn't be, or are they? Seriously, like LSU. LSU has won one national championship per decade, very similar to Ohio State, but the difference is, and are very similar to Ohio State, because Ohio State won a national championship in the 2000s with Jim Tressel. They won a national championship in the 2010s, of course, with Urban Meyer. They've been to a national championship with Ryan Day, and we're close to getting back to one last year. That's a program that about once a decade, they win a national championship. Once a decade, it's with a different name head coach. They were great recruiting classes every single year, but ultimately they only catch fire once a decade. Ohio State and LSU are more of the same program than you think they are. I know that offends some people, but it's true. To sit there and say that, well, yeah, a lot of teams get talent every year, but not everyone wins all the time. Yeah, but when Ohio State thinks that they are a Georgia, when Ohio State thinks that they are Alabama, they're not. Georgia actually wins it. Alabama actually wins it. Ohio State doesn't win it. That's my concern. That's my problem, and I'm allowed to put that out there, and I think it's a fair conversation to have. Am I being negative, or am I being realistic? Because it's the same teams in the top 5 recruiting classes every single season. Every single season, we're talking about the same teams in the recruiting rankings in the top 5. All right? In 2021, as I mentioned, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, and Georgia. Okay. Now, LSU since 2021 has had a slight coaching change. So there's that little element to it, but they won a national championship in 2021. Was that the Burrow year? 2019, sorry, 19 or 20 or whatever that was. But the bottom line is Alabama, Georgia, always in the top 5. They're always winning national championships. Okay. Alabama, Georgia in the top 5 in 2022 rankings, they win in championships. Alabama, Georgia, all right, in the 2023 recruiting rankings, they win championships. Ohio State's in the top 5 in all of those. They don't win championships. Texas is in those rankings. They don't win championships. They have a shot this year. They have Quinn Ewers. I think they have a very good shot. Texas A&M's in there once or twice. All right, LSU's in there quite often. They don't win championships. Ohio State, are they a Georgia and Alabama program, or are they an LSU and Texas type program? Get the best players to come to your school every single season, but don't have a whole lot to show for it. At least before, when they weren't winning national championships, they were dominating their conference. Ohio State's not even winning their conference right now. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. Let's have a fair and calm conversation. I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm not trying to anger Buckeye fans. I want to have a legitimate conversation. Should we be concerned? Should we care about today? It's great that they're getting these great players to come here. But when they don't, every year they bring great players in. And every year we end the season pissed off because they're not Georgia. They lost to Georgia last year. In fact, the last couple times that Ohio State's played those types of teams, they've lost. They lost to Georgia last year. They got curb stomped by Alabama in 2020. Like, you got to start asking yourself those questions. Ohio State, are they in that top tier football program ranking? I don't know. I don't know if they are. All right, it's the Kinner and Kev show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Go over to the comment section and let's see how many of you guys agree or disagree with me right now. Let's see. Ron Howard says Ohio State is the Kentucky of college football. Ron, you've heard me say that before. That was back during the Urban Meyer era, but it's kind of similar now. Kentucky basketball is very similar. Kentucky basketball, they always kill it in their recruiting rankings. Kentucky basketball sends a lot of guys to the National Basketball Association. Kentucky basketball doesn't win national championships. Like, I've always said, Ohio State is the Kentucky of college football. They're the same program. There's a lot of rich history and tradition there. They bring in the best players in the world. They send a ton of talent to the pros. Kentucky to the NBA, Ohio State to the NFL. But ultimately, at the end of the year, they're not hoisting trophies. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. I think it's a fair point. Matt Fink says, I hate that you have to keep clarifying that you're not being negative but realistic. You are 100% right. Thank you. I didn't know where that comment was going, but I appreciate that. Ryan, Dennis, let's go to, who do we have here? Dennis on Facebook says, so Ohio State and Georgia are the same using your argument. Dennis, how are they the same? They're not the same. Georgia, technically, painful to hear for Buckeye fans, are a better program. At least at least today. Georgia and Ohio State, they get the best players in the country every single year. Georgia wins championships. Ohio State doesn't. So what do you mean by that? I'm sorry. So I didn't see the comment before. That's what you were alluding to. So Dennis says Georgia had the same amount of titles in the last 25 years as Ohio State. Listen, I always tell people this. I don't like using big picture history to try to make a point for today, only because today's college football landscape is not the same. We're not playing by the same rules anymore. We're not operating under the same model anymore. It's free agency every year. Players are being paid legally way more than they were being paid illegally. There's the playoff element. It was the 4 team. Now it's the 12 team. Like it's not the same. And to Georgia's credit, I think the 14 playoff era is way more difficult than the previous era. And the 12 team might be a little bit easier to get into the dance. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, winning a championship is going to be even more difficult because Georgia before and Alabama before get into the 14 playoff. You got to beat 2 teams to win the title. Now you got all these other teams in the mix as well. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. But great gets for Ohio State today. But like I said, I'm still concerned. They do this every single season. They haven't won a title in over a decade or close to a decade. They haven't been to a title game since 20. They haven't won their conference in 3 years. It's a fair point to bring up. Let's see. Going on. Let's go to Chad Kinser. Chad says, I thought the show was done until after the new year. I couldn't stay away. I thought about it, but I couldn't stay away. National Signing Day, the Browns-Bengals, hype and excitement. I just couldn't stay away. Plus, what am I going to do? Sit at home and do nothing? Now, the wife is probably sitting here saying, well, you could have done this and you could have done that. Yeah, I could, or I can go talk sports. I'm here talking sports as far as that's concerned. Ryan Strauss says, they are also churning out head coaches. What have we done? Anyone from the urban or day tree, have they been a success? Herman. No, you're talking about Georgia and Alabama. Alabama more specifically. Yeah. I mean, no one's really killing it. Am I missing? I can't think of anyone that has left the Urban Meyer tree or the Ryan Day tree and gone on to have success. That's a good point as far as that's concerned. Tim says, if we go back 20 years, LSU has won 3 national championships that Ohio State won in 2002. No, I've always pointed. LSU to me is one of the most interesting programs in college football. They have won more national championships in the last 3 decades than Ohio State has, right? But they've also, what's even more impressive is the fact that they've done that with 3 different head coaches. They did it with Les Miles, they did it with Nick Saban, and they did it with, Edward Duran. Go Tigers. Like, that's wild to me. So, either way. All right, hour number 1 in the books. We'll step away for a few moments. We got a lot coming your way in hour 2. We'll talk a little college basketball. Jim, so we're Dayton's radio home for Wright State basketball now, and I've been filling in, calling the games alongside Chris Collins for Jim Brown. Jim's been battling some health issues. Of course, you got to be careful with what you reveal about people's health issues, but Jim has been very upfront about some of the issues. So he's going to come on with us, give us an update, and talk a little college hoops. Wright State basketball coming up in hour number 2, but that'll be later on. All right. So the only way to take calls today is when I'm a one-man show today. So when we go to this little pause in the action, small market radio here, call in now. Call in while we are off the air during this commercial break. I'll get you on hold, and we'll take all of your calls on the other side. It's the Kinner and Kev Show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
At Lowe's, save big when you buy in bulk. Get 10% off select OSB sheathing when you buy 68 or more. Plus, save an extra 5% every day on eligible purchases when you use your Lowe's business credit account. Visit us in-store or online for low prices on the materials you need, because Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location while supplies last. Discount taken in time of purchase. See sales associate for details. 5% offer subject to credit approval. Exclusions and terms apply. See store or Lowe's.com/credit for details.
I
I don't know what I want to do. I'm just not sure that college is right for me.
Have you considered a career in dental assisting? I love my job as a dental assistant. I have flexible work hours, the money is good, and I get to work in a professional, people-oriented dental office. What I really love about my job is knowing that I give people a healthy smile.
For more information about becoming a dental assistant, contact your high school guidance counselor. Or if you are no longer in school, talk to a dentist in your community or visit ODA.org. This message is brought to you by the members of the Ohio Dental Association.
Hungry for a great time, maybe some great food? Then come on down to your neighborhood Submarine House. Try our oven-toasted deli subs, our mouth-watering salads, pizzas, appetizers, and more. And wash them down with a unique selection of craft beers while watching the big game on our big screens. With locations around Dayton, in Columbus, and our newest sports bar in Kettering, you're never far from a Submarine House. Subs, sports, spirits. Submarine House.
Hi, Greg McAfee here from McAfee Heating and Air. Inflation is hurting families. Gas and food prices continue to soar, but skilled trade jobs are paying at an all-time high rate. Why keep working for less? If you are experienced in HVAC, have a great attitude, love serving people, and enjoy working hard, apply today at mcair.com. That's mcair.com.
This year for Christmas stocking stuffers, shop at Discount Drug Mart. They have a great selection of little toys and all the candy. And pick up some Christmas ale. Drug Mart is open Christmas Day until 6 p.m. for all your last-minute needs.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
Have you heard? Bath Creations has moved to their new location and showroom at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton. This gives you even more opportunity to see the incredible amenities and craftsmanship Bath Creation offers. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful, modern bathroom that is safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save an additional $500 off your purchase. Visit at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton or online at mybathcreations.com and get a new bath today.
Need legal help? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. Have you heard about our new help center? It's located at the Montgomery County Courthouse, providing legal information and forms. And we also share programs and resources that may be available to you. Let us help you navigate the court system. Visit us online at courthouse2u.com for more info.
Coming to you live from the Superbook Sports Studios in Kettering. You're listening to Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, it's halftime. We welcome you back. Justin Kinner with you. Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Shout out to Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, covers your Cincinnati Bengals. He gave us some time just a little bit ago. The Cincinnati Bengals will be without Jamar Chase for this upcoming matchup with the Steelers. But, of course, how much longer can he be out? Will he be out for an extended period of time? There's only a few weeks left of the regular season before wild card round kicks off. So, look, the Bengals aren't winning the division, but their playoff hopes are still very much alive. And we talked about that with Jay Morrison. How much of a concern should the Jamar Chase injury be for Bengals fans? We talked about that. If you missed that conversation, we'll have that for you again coming up here later on in the show. Okay, got people who are annoyed with the last part of the show because I was all over the place. And I'm willing to admit when I have a bad segment on the show. And that was a bad segment. That wasn't making any sense. So I'm going to reassess. I'm going to restart it if that's okay. Can I admit when I'm at, look, I have Christmas gifts I haven't got for a lot of people. You start overbuying in your head, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, like I've spent a lot of money on this person. I haven't spent any money on this person. I need to make sure I get them. I'm distracted. I'm not making any sense, right? So let's regather here. Today's National Signing Day. I've always been a Scrooge on National Signing Day because I don't do cartwheels and jumping jacks, and I don't drool over the recruiting rankings like a lot of people do. Now, I don't think that recruiting rankings mean absolutely nothing. What they mean to me is something scary as far as the reflection of who Ohio State is as a program. I am a diehard Buckeye fan, and I've always believed that just because you have concerns or criticize teams that you like, love, and follow, that doesn't make you a bad fan. In fact, I think that makes you a very good fan, because I think that the bad fans are the ones that continue to let teams, programs, whether NFL, pro, basketball, it doesn't matter, you let your teams off the hook when you just blindly follow what they do, regardless of the end result. All right. I think, I don't really care. I think, Dayton Flyers fans are very much like that. They don't care about the result of the end of the season. They just love their Flyers, and that's fine, but there should be expectations, and there are, at least that's what they're told. And then when they don't meet them, oh, well, go Dayton Flyers, see you next season, right? Like it's the same thing. Rinse, wash, repeat. It's the same thing every year. Browns fans were like that for the longest time. Bad every single year. We made jokes about it. Well, always next year. 0-16 parade, right? Like it's the same thing all the time, right? It drives me nuts. The Cincinnati Bengals, they lose a Super Bowl. You throw a parade for losing a Super Bowl. That drives me nuts. I think the best fans are the ones that are willing to sit back and self-analyze or just analyze the situation of the teams that they follow. And I do that for Ohio State. So today, Ohio State kicked ass, National Signing Day, right? National Signing Day, they were dominant. All right. The Buckeyes signed the number one player in the 2024 class. All right. Ohio State ended the day, or will end the day, with the most composite 5 stars of any team in the country. Jeremiah Smith was the coveted get for the 2024 class. Whoever would have ended up with him, that was the coveted get. Ohio State, very fortunate to have him. They killed it today. Okay. They lost some names that they were supposed to land, but ultimately they still, even after losing some big names, they still have one of the best talented classes out there. Okay. So they get Aaron Noland, their star quarterback. I love that Aaron Noland and Jeremiah Smith are coming in together. I think that's pretty cool. It'd be nice to see them kind of grow together and end their careers at the same time and not staggered and that type of thing. I would love to see Aaron Noland be a future first-round draft pick while we're talking about Jeremiah Smith in the same light that we have with Chris Olave, a Garrett Wilson, or Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, and the list goes on and on. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, can't leave him out. But every year we do this, we start talking about these names. They're great names. They're big names. Ohio State's always in the top 5 recruiting rankings, right? If you're just joining us and you were tuning to the show earlier, you're saying, didn't you just talk about this? Yes, I messed up the last part of the show, so I want to reset my point so that it can make sense for everybody, including myself. I didn't feel good about that last part of the show, so I'm resetting it. But every year we do this. Top 5 recruiting class. Every year they get the best players in the country to come. And what do they have to show for it? Well, I get a pushback in the last part of the show. Well, Justin, a lot of teams, every year there has to be teams in the top 5 recruiting rankings. So every year there are teams getting the best players in the country. And every year those teams aren't winning national championships. Oh, but you're wrong. If you just look at the small sample size, if you just want to go back 5, 6, 7 years, the teams that have been dominating over the last 5, 6 years were the teams that were dominating on the recruiting trail throughout that. And dominating isn't winning championships. Ohio State hasn't won a national championship going on 10 years. They haven't won a championship since 2014. They haven't been to the title game since 2020 when they got curb stomped by Alabama. They haven't even won their conference championship in the last 3 years. Haven't even played in it. That's a problem for a team that is in the top 5 recruiting rankings every single season. Now, the reason that's a big deal is because I view Ohio State in the same light that I do in Alabama. I view Ohio State in the same light that I view Georgia. But they're not. If you're being realistic, they're just not. Do you guys feel that Ohio State equals Georgia? Do you feel like Ohio State equals Alabama? Because they're not. There's been 2 decades out of the same. There's been 2 dynasties. I'm sorry. There's been 2 dynasties out of the same conference that have overlapped over the last 6 years, and that's out of the SEC. And it's not because of bias. It's because those are the 2 best programs in college football, and I'm talking about Georgia and Alabama. This is why I don't buy into the SEC bias talk. I don't think Florida State was left out because of SEC bias. I think Florida State was left out because Alabama's just they're just better. I'm not hating. I'm not stirring the pot. It's common sense. I mean, when you look at the recruiting rankings, if the program that has the best players in the world every single season and the program that is constantly winning championships and in the championship hunt, I don't think that's bias. I think that's just common sense, really. Ohio State recruits like Georgia and Alabama, but that doesn't make them Georgia and Alabama. Those 2 programs win championships. Ohio State doesn't even win their conference championship. Not hating, I'm being realistic. I don't know if you guys are wrestling fans. I'm a big CM Punk fan, and one of my favorite promos of his is when he says, "Stop me when I'm telling lies. Stop me when I'm telling lies. Where am I lying? Where am I wrong here?" Ohio State hasn't won a title in over 10 years. They haven't been to a title game in going on 4. They haven't even been to their conference championship in 3, nor have they won one. And we'll head into, in 2024, who knows what's going to happen there. So I say all of this because 2021, here are your top 5 recruiting rankings, okay? Regardless of the order, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Georgia. We're right there in Texas, okay? Texas is in these rankings a lot. Texas doesn't have a whole lot to show for their talent either. And we look down on Texas, but they do what Ohio State does. They fall up short constantly, even with getting the best players in the recruiting trail year in and year out. 2022, Texas A&M, we know what kind of a disaster that was, right? But that was the 2022 class. That was like the big, we bought it class, right? So you have Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State. All right, 2023, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, LSU, and Oklahoma. There's a constant. Every year, it's Ohio State. Every year, it's Alabama. Every year, it's Georgia. Every year, those 3 programs are in the top 5 in recruiting rankings. Here's the problem. We believe our program, we believe our Ohio State Buckeyes, we believe that they are on the same playing field as Georgia. We believe that they are on the same playing field as Alabama. And we believe that because they get the same caliber of players as those 2 programs. But the bottom line is, and stop me when I'm telling lies like I joked about earlier, they're not Georgia and they're not Alabama. Those programs win championships. Ohio State doesn't. Ohio State's getting the same caliber of players as those programs. Why are they not on the same level as Georgia and Alabama? I need to know that answer. I want to know that answer. And I think that you guys need to be a little frustrated as far as that's concerned. I'm not here to bring the mood down this holiday season. I'm tired of seeing everyone do social media cartwheels because look at all the talent we got today. We get talent every year. Am I supposed to be shocked that Ohio State did what they're supposed to? They're supposed to get this talent. I don't care that they get this talent. I care about what they do after they get the talent. And what they do after they get the talent, that's what separates them from Georgia and Alabama, and not in a good way. Georgia and Alabama, they get a top 5 recruiting class every year. Georgia and Alabama win championships. Ohio State gets top 5 recruiting classes every year. They're not even getting Big Ten championships. I'm allowed to be pissed off about that. I'm allowed to criticize that. And I hope Keith Byers isn't listening. I haven't checked my phone to see if he's messaged in to go off on me yet. But the bottom line is I'm not wrong. You can't, I'm stating facts. They haven't won a title since 14. No, Kinner, you're wrong. No, that's a fact. They haven't won a Big Ten title game in 3 years. No, Kinner, you're wrong. No, that's a fact too. And then, is Ohio State Georgia? Is Ohio State Alabama? No, they're not, because the last time they played Georgia, they lost. And the last time they played Alabama, they got curb stomped in the national championship game. Unfortunately, there are tiers in college football. And I used to consider Ohio State on the very top tier with Alabama. But the bottom line is they're not. They're just not. And I don't care about history as far as going back decades and decades. Okay? Because today's college football landscape with NIL and the transfer portal, it's just not the same anymore. So using what a team did decades ago to make an argument for an argument here today in 2023 heading into 24, it doesn't matter a whole lot, It just doesn't. So I feel like I did a better job of organizing my thoughts and making my points that I meant to make in the last part of the show, but I was just word vomit the whole time, so my apologies, but I feel like I got my point across a lot better this time, and I hope you guys followed along better. But Buckeye fans, let's just have a conversation. Is Ohio State on the same tier as Alabama and Georgia? I do not believe that they are. I do not believe that they are. When Kev Nash gets back, I want to have a tiered conversation with him. I want us to make tier. I want us to rank the tiers in college football. And I'm mad because I've always looked at Ohio State as the top tier, and they're just not. And that's frustrating. So enjoy today, because like I said, to be a good team, you have to get the good players. Okay. Even look at the playoff field right now. All the teams in the playoff, they kick ass on the recruiting trail. So I'm slightly, when I say that today doesn't matter, it matters because this is the first step. Okay. This is the first step is getting the good players to come to your school. That's step number one. Now the second step is keeping those mofos at your program. All right. Make sure you tell them how much you like their shoes. Tell them how nice they look that day. Don't yell at them. Okay. If they like a movie that you don't like, just lie. Tell them you like it too. Got to keep them happy, right? Because if not, they'll leave. So the first step is getting the good players in the door. The second step is keeping those good players. And then the third step is developing those players. And the fourth step is winning with those players. And when I mean winning, I don't mean, oh, look at Iowa. They had a cute little season. They won some games. Okay? I don't mean that. I don't mean Northwestern. Man, they had a much better year than we anticipated. They won one game last year. They won 7 this year. I feel good to be a Northwestern fan. No. I don't mean win games. I mean win games. The games. Michigan, the Big Ten championship, college football playoff games, national championships, those games. First step, get the good players here. Second step, keep the good players. Third step, develop those players. Fourth step, win the games that matter. So I get it. I'm not pushing for Ryan Day to be pushed out the door, not by a long shot. However, bragging about his Big Ten record against Rutgers and Maryland while losing to the team that matters the most, Michigan, I get why people are losing their patience. But I'm not losing my patience with Ryan Day because of the Michigan game like most of you. I'm losing my patience with Ryan Day the way I was starting to lose patience with Urban Meyer, because every year we do this. We do social media cartwheels for National Signing Day. And what do we have to show for it? Nothing. Not a whole lot. And that's where I'm at with that. Okay, so Chad Kinser on Facebook. Again, head to the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, and that's where you could watch the show live weekdays from 3 to 6 and interact with the show. And Chad Kinser says, if we continue to be up there in recruiting classes with Bama and Georgia, but we can't close the deals at season's end, is that a coaching issue? Just my opinion. I love Ryan Day, but they got to say something. Chad, me and you are in the same spot. Like, I love that Ohio State got great players to commit to them today. But Georgia and Alabama also get great players to commit to them, not just today, but every year. And look at their end result more years than not. And then look at Ohio State's. You are 1,000,000% allowed to question the coaching and the development. And by the way, for those of you out there who want to make this a Ryan Day thing, I'm here to tell you that this is an Ohio State thing, because this even goes back to Urban Meyer. I was saying the same thing about Urban Meyer. Questioning Ohio State on this station, I get it. It's like walking up to the pulpit at church and making a Jesus joke in front of the congregation. You are going to get booed out of there. Lightning might strike you down. Making a Jesus joke at church is the equivalent to criticizing Ohio State on a Buckeye affiliate station. I get it. But I'm not making jokes. I'm just slightly bringing up facts that seem to annoy some people, and I think that they're fair points. So with that being said, Urban Meyer did a lot of the same thing. Dominant on the recruiting trail. Won national championship, and I'm not saying that national championship was a fluke, but, I mean, it took the committee using them to make a point to the Big 12 to get a title game. Otherwise, if the Big 12 had a title game, there's no Cardale Jones. There's no third or fourth string quarterback leading the Buckeyes to a national championship storyline out there. And we're looking at Jim Tressel as the last coach to bring a title to Columbus. And I'm one of the biggest Urban Meyer fans in the world out there. And even I was questioning Urban Meyer towards the end. Like, hey, that's great. You have all this great talent, but what? What are we doing with it? I mean, it's the Ryan Day thing too. I think it's an Ohio State problem. I don't know if it's just on Ryan Day. I don't think it was just on Urban Meyer. It's an Ohio State problem because it's not like Urban was recruiting well and then winning championships. And then here comes Ryan Day and now he's not winning championship. Ryan Day is doing a lot of the same stuff Urban did, except Urban won a title, but that was so early in the run. Anyways, there you go. All right, good stuff. Appreciate everyone's interaction in the comment section. Let's see. Steve Stetler says he agrees. Thank you for that. Steve also goes on to say, I think your finesse point about Day says volumes about the program. Yeah, like sometimes we just look at the overall results of the conglomerate class as a whole, right? Like we look at the final result. Oh, man, look at they have five stars. And according to the composite, there's no other team that has that many 5 stars. Man, we are killing it. 2 wide receivers, a cornerback, and a quarterback, and 1 defensive lineman. And what do we keep saying every year? We're losing because we're soft in the trenches. Where's our offensive lineman? Where's our defensive lineman? Now, we got the defensive line. We got a kick-ass defensive lineman. But again, in college football and college athletics, it's not – I mean, it's – you can't say it's about quantity over quality. No, or about quality over quantity. No, it has to be a combination of both. There has to be an overlap. There has to be quality and there has to be quantity. And Ohio State got a quality defensive lineman today, but where's the quantity? Where's the masses? Where's everyone else? Anyways, and by the way, I'm here to also tell you it's okay if, and I say this about teams like in the NFL. Last point here, I was a fan of what the Bengals did over the last couple of seasons. Finally throwing in the towel, saying, "Okay, fine, let's go get Karras." Right, let's go get Capel. Let's go get Lyle Collins. Okay, let's go. Let's go get the number 1 offensive lineman free agent in the offseason. They finally caved. They said, we're done drafting offensive linemen. We can't draft them. We don't know what we're doing. We can't draft offensive linemen. We can't develop them. So let's go put our money where our deficiencies are within our drafting, results. Right, and I applauded them for that. Because they could draft receivers real well. They could draft running backs real well. They can't draft offensive line, so they put their money there. So, okay, Ohio State, you're struggling recruiting defensive and offensive linemen. Super. Go buy them. Oh, yeah, but you haven't done a damn thing in the transfer portal either. If Ohio State was soft in their recruiting rankings today as far as defensive and offensive linemen, but man, they brought in a whole slew of guys from the portal. They're fixing the O-line in the portal, and they're setting themselves up big picture here, with the incoming talent. But that's not what they're doing. So they have no masses of guys coming in to help on the recruiting trail, and there's no one coming in to help from the portal. Lord help us. I mean, my goodness. Dennis says, you act like Georgia has so many more titles than Ohio State. Dennis, in today's college football, they do. And the only thing that matters is today's college football. I don't care about teams that won multiple titles in the 80s and 90s. I don't care. If those teams that won multiple titles in the 80s and 90s aren't relevant now, you ain't relevant at all. Like, I really don't care. I just don't. Like, if Washington goes on to win a national title this year, that's weird to me. That Washington will have a more recent national championship than Ohio State. That's weird. Texas, you got to be concerned about Texas because they're not going anywhere. They continue to dominate on the recruiting trail. They're heading to the SEC where all the bias lives, right? They recruit the same level as Ohio State has in recent years. And if they win a championship, that means they're doing something Ohio State can't do, and that's recruit at a high level and mixing it with championships. I'm allowed to question that. And to sit there and say, well, Georgia, you act like they have so many more than Ohio State. In today's college football landscape, they do. Georgia, they dominated the 14 college football playoff era. Alabama dominated the college football playoff era. Clemson technically dominated the college football playoff era. They, with multiple recruiting classes, with multiple star quarterbacks, went to multiple national championship games, won multiple national championships. Clemson has been better during the college football playoff era than Ohio State. Alabama, Georgia. I'm just saying. I mean, no, I'm not acting like Georgia's won that many more than Ohio State. I'm acting like Georgia is a dynasty. They just won they were on the verge of winning 3 straight national championships. They lost their first game in 3 years, back-to-back national champions, and they lost by 3 against Alabama in the SEC title game. And that's the only reason. To me, Georgia got screwed way more than Texas or than Florida State. Well, everyone's boo-hooing over Florida State, who made watching their team offensively with the backup quarterback set football back decades. The real team that got robbed was Georgia, to me. But, this is the SEC Network right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll step away for a few moments. More of the Kinner and Kev Show when we come back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The forecast calling for partly cloudy skies and a low of 28 tonight. Partly sunny and 47 tomorrow. Friday, it's mostly cloudy and 50. Rick Schrupp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Menards is celebrating Ryan Blaney's NASCAR championship with 12% off everything till Christmas. Keep warm in your garage or workshop with a Dynaglow electric heater. A 7,500-watt heater can warm up to 750 square feet and can be controlled by a remote or with your phone. Stay comfortable with a Dynaglow electric garage heater. $289.95 after 12% off. Hurry in before Christmas Day. Savings or mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. Sorry, no price adjustments. See store for details.
Season's greetings to you all from Menards.
Folks, hunting season's here. Take the shot when seconds count. Homestead Feed and Supply stocks American-made crystal clear rifle lens scope covers by shootthrough.com. No need to flip these covers up. Just shoot through and take the shot. Available at Homestead Feed and Supply, 1833 North Dayton Lakeview Road. Tell them the Colonel sent you.
$5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers with excellent work history. If that's you, apply now. Cordell Transportation offers home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight, and brand new equipment, plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, and company 401k with company match. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
What will you find at Macy's Backstage? How about the perfect holiday gifts $25 and under, like matching family PJs, fragrance sets, toys, and more. Find the latest trends, new arrivals, and great prices at a Macy's Backstage near you.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Justin Kinner with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Former afternoon host and program director of 1410 ESPN Radio, Mark Neal, will be co-hosting the show with me tomorrow. So we'll dive more into the National Signing Day talk with him. We'll talk some Cincinnati Reds, of course. So that's coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll also have Ohio State basketball on the air tomorrow. We'll have Wright State basketball on the air on Friday. And then we head into the holiday weekend, Christmas on Monday, and then we're right back at it next week, heading into the new year, of course. So pretty excited about that. We are Dayton's radio home of Wright State basketball, just like Ohio State basketball. But Jim Brown, former Raiders coach and one half of the voice of the Raiders, usually calls the games alongside Chris Collins. He's been out this season since the Colorado State game. I've been filling in for him. No, I have not replaced him by any means. Just kind of keeping the seat warm until he comes back. So he's going to come on with us here in a little bit, here in about 10 minutes, to kind of just give us an update on his health situation, and we'll let him kind of explain what's going on and when we can expect him back. So we're looking forward to that. But we'll have Wright State basketball on Friday. Jim Brown coming up here just about 10 minutes from now. Looking forward to catching up with him nonetheless. All right. Back to the comment section. Dennis on Facebook says that my problem with Ohio State is Ryan Day not recruiting. I've never said my problem was recruiting. I said, remember, there are 4 levels to this, the 4 steps to this. The first step, you got to get the good players here. Ryan Day, Urban Meyer, they obviously did that. The second step is to keep them here. Okay. All right. In today's college football landscape, or the athletics landscape with the portal, that's tough to do. So the second step is to keep them here. The third step is to develop them. And the fourth step is to win, and not win. Oh, we beat Rutgers and we beat Maryland, and oh, we beat Michigan State, and we look at, man, Ryan Day, he just wins every single week. Yeah. What about Michigan? What about when he plays Georgia? Right? What about when he plays Alabama? What about when he plays the teams what about when he plays Oregon? What about when he plays those teams? Because losing to Oregon 2 years ago losing to Oregon 2 years ago is why they didn't make the playoff. People say, oh, if they would have beat Michigan, they would have been in the playoff. True, but usually, the reason why people were bearing Georgia and others for not playing anybody, I mean, you should be able, to kind of get through your non-con and have a forgivable loss in the conference. That's why I said Georgia got screwed more than Florida State. Like, Georgia hasn't lost in 3 years. Their first loss is by 3 to Alabama in an SEC title game, and they keep them out. But you guys want to scream SEC bias. Stop it. Oh, it's all about the money. That's why Alabama's in over Florida State. You want to talk about money? Have 2 teams in. Oh, but that's why they've had 2 teams in recent years. No, it's not. It's because Cincinnati was in line to make the playoff. If it was about money, Cincinnati would not have made the playoff. If it was about money, TCU wouldn't have made the playoff last year. All they care about is ratings and money. Explain Cincinnati. That was actually one of the lowest. That was the lowest rated college football playoff game throughout the entire decade. The Cincinnati-Alabama game was the least watched college football playoff game. You want to know what the second least favorite watch game was? TCU. Well, that's why they didn't want a third straight year of that. Stop. No matter what, you guys were going to be pissed off, and no matter what explanation they gave, you weren't going to agree with it. So let's just agree that you just like to be miserable, because there is not going to be an explanation out there that you found fit. So it is what it is. But as far as saying, Ohio State, they're getting the players in there. They're just not winning with them. They recruit at the same level as Georgia and Alabama. Why is their success not equal to theirs? Because it's just not. As I've stated and repeated, I mean, it's been the same segment for the entire show. It's bad radio today. I completely get that. But it's been the same segment for now going on an hour. They recruit at the same level as Georgia and Alabama, except Georgia and Alabama win championships. In Ohio State, they're not even winning Big Ten championships. No, they're not on the same level as them. Gordon Gross on Facebook says, all of those teams you just named, Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson, in those years had the best recruiting classes. Gordon, are you agreeing or disagreeing with me? I just want to make sure I'm understanding your point. That's all. Mainly because I've highlighted the importance of those programs recruiting, but just because you recruit well doesn't mean that you're guaranteed success. But that's the first step, of course. And the reason I bring that up is because, yes, you are right. All of those teams that I just mentioned, the Georgia, the Bama, the Clemson, in those years, they had the best recruiting classes. That's because they did their job. They brought in the best players. They developed the best players, and they won with the best players. That's what they're supposed to do. But then when you look at the recruiting rankings over the last couple of seasons, I mean, you constantly see LSU, you constantly see Texas A&M, you constantly see Texas, you constantly see Oklahoma, but they're not doing what they're supposed to. Now, technically, Oklahoma won it with Joe Burrow years ago, but let's be clear. When you think of Ohio State, do you put them in the same category as Texas and LSU? Do you put them in the same category as Texas A&M and Oklahoma? You don't, but that's what they are. Because those are teams that are constantly in the top 5 in recruiting rankings. They don't win championships. The other 2 teams that are constantly in the top 5 in recruiting rankings, you have Georgia and Alabama. They win championships. Ohio State's not on their level. Ohio State's not a top-tier football program right now. They're not. The top-tier football programs in today's college football, Georgia and Alabama. The SEC has won 4 straight national championships. They're about to potentially extend that with Alabama in the playoff if they can get past that team up north, which I anticipate them to do. So there's that. So Gordon Gross says, I wouldn't say OSU finishing at 3-5 recruiting is the same as those teams finishing at 1. Top 5 recruiting classes, though. But yes, But so hold on. You're saying that you're making an excuse for Ohio State that the teams that won national championships, they had the number 1 ranked class, and Ohio State all the way at 3. That's why they didn't win it? Huh? Like, Ohio State doesn't have the number 1 recruiting class in 2024, but they have the most 5-star commitments of everyone else. So technically, they have. I mean, no other team has more 5-star. No other team has a conglomerate of the best players in the country than they do. Interesting. Chad Kinster says, let's talk Reds baseball. They better not trade India. I don't know what's going on with that either. Why the India? I thought we had put at Reds Fest. We heard that India was not going anywhere. And then they go get, another middle infielder. And all of a sudden we're hearing his name be mentioned a lot. Now, to be fair, Jonathan India's name has not been mentioned by the Reds front office or any Reds insiders. So I would not get too concerned about that. If other teams are knocking on the door asking about it, they should. They should. I mean, for an entire decade, no one cared about any player on the Reds roster, so we never heard reports of that. I think it's a good thing. It shows you the job the Reds front office has done. The fact that so many teams are knocking on the Reds' door inquiring about certain players, it just shows you that, hey, there's some talent there. Okay, Gordon, my fault. Okay, I'm saying they are not equal to Alabama and Georgia. Okay, yep, this is the communication issues when you're just messaging into the show. That's my reading comprehension. That's the problem. That's what it is when it's all said and done, nonetheless. All right, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm supposed to be off all this week and all next week, but with the National Signing Day today and the Browns, Bengals, the playoff push, and college basketball heating up, and I couldn't stay away. I don't know about you guys. Like, my wife gets mad at me because I have all this PTO I don't use. It's use it or lose it. And so I go ahead and I try to use it, but then when I use it, I just sit at home and do nothing. I can't sit at home and do nothing. I can't sit at home. I can't watch. Like, I could maybe one day put on Netflix and just binge watch a show the entire day, but the next day, my gosh, I have to have something to do. So the bottom line is, I kind of like y'all. I kind of like hanging out with y'all. I know I pissed some of y'all off, but I do like spending some time with you guys. So I was supposed to be off this week, but I said, forget it. I'll take off next week. And maybe not even then. We'll find out what happens, right? But all right, good stuff. Let's talk with Jim Brown, longtime voice of the Raiders. He's a Wright State Hall of Famer and Wright State basketball right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. I had a good big win last night against Miami of Ohio, and I filled in for Jim sitting alongside Chris Collins. And a lot of people have been asking, where's Jim Brown? Where's Jim Brown? I don't know what you're allowed to put out there about people's health and stuff, so I figured Jim Brown would be the best person to call onto the show to kind of tell everyone where he's been and to talk a little Wright State basketball. We'll talk some college hoops with Wright State Hall of Famer Jim Brown when we come back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
This is Keith Byers for Superbook Sports. You spend valuable time thinking about which bets to place each week. So why wouldn't you want the best company in the business to be the one who handles those bets? Superbook Sports is the most trusted name in Las Vegas, and it's now live right here in Ohio for all your sports wagering needs. Superbook has a team of dedicated odds makers behind the counter in Las Vegas setting all the prices. We're talking about guys with decades of experience showing you why Superbook has the best odds around. And right now, you can look ahead to hockey and hoops postseason and place a bet on who you think will take home the title. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to wager and win today. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-589-9966. Call 1-800-589-9966. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-589-9966. Call 1-800-589-9966.
Walmart Plus membership, plus not pay for it because it's included with Straight Talk wireless plans. You get free delivery with Walmart plus a Paramount Plus subscription included. Plus, you pay less for gas. That's a lot of pluses.
Only Straight Talk gives you unlimited 5G data and Walmart Plus included on select plans for free.
Straight Talk wireless, available at Walmart.
Requires service on Gold or Platinum Unlimited. One offer per eligible account. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. Additional terms apply.
Getting a live Christmas tree to plant after the holidays? Well, here are some tips. In the house, keep it away from heat sources that could wake it up out of dormancy. You don't want that. Dig your hole now before the ground freezes. Or if you plan to wait till spring, you need to protect roots from extreme cold with mulch or straw. And move it from the warm house to an unheated area like a garage temporarily to make the transition outside more gentle. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the Ohio chapter of the International Society of Arboriculture at treesforohio.org. That's trees, the number 4, ohio.org.
Hungry for a great time, maybe some great food? Then come on down to your neighborhood Submarine House. Try our oven-toasted deli subs, our mouth-watering salads, pizzas, appetizers, and more. And wash them down with a unique selection of craft beers while watching the big game on our big screens. With locations around Dayton, in Columbus, and our newest sports bar in Kettering, you're never far from a Submarine House. Subs, sports, spirits, Submarine House.
You've heard the buzz about IT jobs and cybersecurity and AI, right? Why not prepare for a career in these fields and take advantage of the high demand? You could enjoy a more rewarding and recession-resistant lifestyle. Train in just a few short months at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Already in IT? Skill up for positions employers need to fill. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. That's mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because no two people sleep the same. Only the Sleep Number smart bed lets you each choose your individual firmness and comfort, your Sleep Number setting. The Climate 360 smart bed is so smart it actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. And now save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed ends Sunday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the NFL.
Now's the time to get a great deal on Kubota construction equipment featuring durable Kubota engines, more comfort, more productivity, more get it done right. The Kubota construction lineup shows up ready to work every day. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 36 months. Now through December 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details.
Stop by Columbus Equipment in Columbus, Dayton, or Toledo to see our full line of Kubota construction equipment, or check us out online at columbusequipment.com.
Discover wants everyone to feel special with live 24/7 customer service. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
This holiday season, visit Boot Barn for top quality gifts that pay tribute to the lasting heritage of the West. From handcrafted cowboy boots and American-made felt hats to hand-stitched leather jackets, our in-store experts will help guide you as you shop, assisting with boot fitting and providing complimentary hat shaping. This holiday, share a piece of the American spirit. Boot Barn. Unwrap the West.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides 24/7 compassionate support and connection to trained counselors. When you call, text, or chat 988, you'll be quickly connected to trained counselors who will listen to your concerns, provide support, and connect you to additional resources if needed. There is hope. The Lifeline works. You are not alone. For 24/7 support, just call, text, or chat 988.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, Dayton's radio home for Wright State University basketball, of course. Wright State coming away with the big win over Miami of Ohio last night at the Nutter Center. They have one more non-conference game remaining before they head into conference play. Of course, that's pretty much the story for all teams out there as non-conference play officially wrapping up for everyone throughout the college basketball landscape nonetheless. But that was a big win for Wright State. It wasn't just that they won, it's how they won, and that's kind of that's what a lot of people envisioned the team to look like coming into the season, especially when the announcement of Tanner Holden making his return to the Raiders was made earlier in the offseason. But I'm excited to bring on our next guest because this season, so of course, when we acquired the rights to Wright State basketball on WING and 101.5 Hank FM, it was to carry, obviously, Wright State basketball. I was not supposed to be involved in this at all, but Jim Brown, who is going to join us here in a second, Wright State Hall of Famer, a legend within the program, he's been there every step of the way for the Wright State program, and he's been the one half of the voice of the Raiders for quite some time now, but his absence has been obviously noted, and I've been filling in for him, and that is it. I am just filling in. I have not replaced him. I have not taken anything. I did not bring Wright State basketball to Wing just to say, all right, Jim, you're out of here. I promise you that is not even close to being the case, and I'm glad that we get some time with Coach Brown here today. Coach Brown, it's been a while, sir. How are you? Thank you for coming on.
I'm good. Good to be with you.
I appreciate your time. And, I wanted to start off with this because so many people have been asking, where's Jim? Where's Jim? If you are comfortable with it, if you want to give people an update kind of on where has Jim been and what is Jim doing to get back?
Well, about a month ago, I guess it was early November, I started experiencing some pretty severe back pain, and I went with the team out to Colorado. I did that game with Colorado State, and we came home. I did a home game with Toledo, then went over to Indiana. And when I got to the game in Indiana, coming back that night in the car, the pain just got so bad I could hardly make it into the house when I got back.
Wow.
And I'd been diagnosed as spinal stenosis. My spine, because of all the things I've done in my life, I guess has kind of deteriorated a little bit, and it's kind of the vertebrae are pushing up against some nerves, and I'm going to get an epidural shot, and then I'm seeing a back surgeon to see what my options might be. So I've tried to stay positive, but it's been a very frustrating experience because when you're active and you want to do things, and then all of a sudden it's very difficult to do anything. The only time I really have any pain is when I stand or try to walk. When I sit, fortunately, and when I sleep, I'm fine, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
But when I get up to stand or try to walk, it's very, very painful. I mean, I've never had pain like this any time in my life. So hopefully the epidural shot will help with that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I know that everyone out there just continues to ask, and they are so excited to get you back whenever that time comes. And I know I'm excited to get you back whenever that time comes.
I appreciate you helping Chris out because that's to do a game by yourself is very difficult. So I appreciate you taking my place there.
Absolutely. And I always tell people I have not replaced Jim. I am simply just, Jim, you'll appreciate this. I was a bench player my entire basketball career. So I've played this role many, many times. I'm good at keeping the seat warm for the starters. So there you go.
Well, you're doing a good job.
So with that being said, obviously, you've been battling the back issue and you haven't been able to call the games this season like you have for many, many years, but you've been taking the games in. You've been watching from afar. Just your overall takeaway right now, Wright State has a chance to even the record at 500 coming up on Friday, heading into conference play. And I don't know how much you've heard from Coach Nagy throughout this as well. He was kind of expecting a better start. Even with the tougher non-con, he was still expecting a much better result than what they've gotten to this point. We saw glimpses of that greatness that we expected from this team last night against Miami of Ohio. But just your overall vibe and takeaway of what you've kind of seen and taken away from this team thus far.
Well, I said to many people that even asked in the summer and the fall, how Wright State would be. And I said, I think they're going to be